This is a project on the life of Robert Koch. He was born in Germany in a mining family on December 11th, 1843. He taught himself how to read at age 5, and at 19 he attended the University of Göttingen. A picture of this university can be found in the top right corner of the slide. He served in the Franco-Prussian War before he finally settled in the small town of Wolstein, Germany. And that is where he started his first career. Robert Koch and his assistants did come up with a few different methods to put in the science world. Robert Koch came up with a way to stain bacteria to identify it easier, and his assistant Richard Petrie came up with the Petri dish. Robert Koch's first experiment, or something he first proved, was on anthrax. So he wanted to prove that the presence of the oval translucent-shaped bodies that he observed on a glass slide were what caused anthrax. So to do this, he inoculated 50 generations of mice with small slivers of wood, with samples from sheep that had anthrax and some of them that were healthy. And he observed that the mice that were inoculated with the anthrax from the sheep that were diseased, those were the mice that were also becoming diseased. So he grew the bacteria on an aqueous humor of the eye, as you can see in the lower right corner. And that was the perfect medium for the bacteria because it would not grow anywhere else. And then he put the eye in a controlled box where he could control the humidity and temperature and everything. Overall, Robert Koch discovered that when blood from infected animals is left on fields like grazing fields, spores in the bacteria stay alive for long periods of time, even in extreme conditions. Actually, especially in extreme conditions like freezing and rain and extreme heat. So he presented this idea, and Ferdinand Kohn, a German botanist, published the theory, which gained Robert Koch tons of fame. Despite his crazy discoveries in anthrax, Robert Koch won the Nobel Prize in 1905 for his discoveries in tuberculosis. The disease of tuberculosis occupied most of Europe, killing about 80% at the end of the 19th century when Robert Koch was at his prime. So many people thought it was hereditary. They didn't want anybody else to study it, so it made it a very controversial disease for Robert Koch to try to study. Many people thought it was genetic because it would go through families and kill so many people. Because it was so controversial, Robert Koch locked himself in his lab away from all his assistants for half of a year or more. He stained the bacteria and identified 2 different types of tuberculosis, one found in animals and one found in humans that were not alike. When Robert Koch presented the theory of tuberculosis to the general public, many were amazed and did not even want to question his theory. So it was published April 23rd, 1882, 17 days after he presented it to other scientists. After being able to understand the bacteria, Robert Koch attempted to market 2 different cures to the public. So the first one he marketed really well. Everybody thought it was going to work, and it was widely publicized. However, when it was actually given out, it did not work at all. So the public was a little angry. But then he released another one. And this one was called tuberculin. And this one also did not work. But in addition to it not working, there was a rumor that spread that the only reason he marketed that second one was because he wanted to support a young actress that he had fallen in love with. This angered many citizens in the area and they went to the extremes of tearing down a plaque outside his house that claimed that he was the #1 bacteriologist. The true question is, did Robert Koch deserve the Nobel Prize for tuberculosis? Yes, he deserved the Nobel Prize. Maybe it should have gone to him for anthrax instead. However, it can be looked at a different view. Anthrax was killing most people in Europe at the time. He was the savior. He figured it out. And even though he failed at finding a cure, he created a skin test that is still used to today. So his original vaccine did not work. It would cause people to break out in hives. Many people realize that this could be used to determine whether or not the body that is being tested has come in contact with tuberculosis before. So even today, if someone is needing to be able to tell if they've come in contact with tuberculosis, they can be injected with a small amount of tuberculin. And if they have broken out in small hives or raised bumps, it's an indicator that they've come in contact with it, and they will go in for further testing. But if their skin is clear, then they have not come in contact with it. So yes, he deserved the award because it helps the public today.